Hi folks, welcome to today's edition of the video cast My Life with Robert Burns. We're pleased you could join us. Douglas Mackenzie here with Jim Thompson again. We're going to have a blether with another of our cronies. Hi Jim.
Hi Douglas, hi everybody.
Today we're joined by a crony from the north of Ayrshire, who's the former president of the Ayrshire Association of Burns Clubs. Cronies everywhere. To tell us about his life with Robert Burns, please welcome Alister Sim.
Evening gents and evening all, thanks very much for inviting me on. I've watched a few of the podcasts before and they're really interesting, so it's great to be asked to come on and give my thoughts. I'm really looking forward to it.
Good. Well, if you've seen us before, you'll know that the first question really is, can you please tell us a little bit about yourself?
Aye, sure. So, as you say, I'm Alister Sim. I'm secretary of Doraya Burns Club up here in Doraya, and I'm 47. I was born in 1973 at Buckreddon in Kilwinning, and I Doraya man all my life. Lived in a family house with my mum, my dad, my two older sisters. Went to Doraya Primary School and then went on to Garnock Academy over in Kilburnie, as everybody for the Garnock Valley did. And school was I carry on, if I'm being honest with you. For me, I'm first to put my hand up and say I didn't apply myself. But I was lucky enough that when I came out of school, I managed to get a really good apprenticeship with the Ministry of Defence up at DM Beef, the Admiralty as it was called at the time, the Admiralty. So I did a 4-year mechanical apprenticeship up there, and I even managed to come out with an engineering qualification. And then I did 14 years in the shop floor at Beef in various roles. And in 2009, I still with MOD, I got a job up at Kentigern House in Glasgow, kind of HR manager type role. And I was up there for about 7 years. Great job up there, and all really busy, really interesting. But the commute wasn't great, and I was always looking to get back down to Beef. So, about 2016 it was, so just nearly about 4.5 years ago, I moved back to Beef and back into an engineering role, and I've been there ever since. So I am pretty settled up there. But I've worked for the MOD since I was 17, so I'll be 30 years in August. So it's been a good employer, a good employer for me. But you know, things don't change up at Beef. And just to give a wee story, as I say, I worked in Glasgow for 7 years, and part of my daily routine, I go to the gym at lunchtime. So I did that at Beef before I went to Glasgow. And I did it at Glasgow, and I did it. So I was back at Beef about a month, and I was in the gym there at lunchtime, and I was pounding away, you know. And one of the mod guards come up to us and says, "Oh, Alister, you're hitting the gym hard this last 2 weeks. I said, no more than normal, you know." He says, "Oh, it's just I've not seen you up the gym for a wee while." He says, "I was working up in Glasgow for a bit." He says, "Really? How long?" He says, 7.5 years. I said, "What?" Well, that just shows you nothing much changes up at Beef. Sorry.
I was just kind of wondering what kind of stuff you do up there, or is it a secret?
Well, it's not really that much. I'm a project engineer on a weapons system, so I basically engineering decisions on what's safe to use. Basically, that's about it. It's less exciting than it sounds, to be honest. And engineering stuff, as I'm a mechanical engineer to trade, but my job at the moment is all sorts of disciplines, you know, electrical and EMC, all sorts of stuff I deal with now, just because it's such a complex weapon system. But I really enjoy it, and it's as I said earlier, I'm working for him now, but the shop floor stuff, I always really enjoyed that, and I do get the chance to do that from time to time in my current job, so I don't mind it at all. That's work really. With work, I'm married. My wife's name's Pauline. She's a Doraya lassie too. I met her in 2000, and we moved in together the next year, and we got married in 2003. and my daughter Emma was born in 2004. So, she's 16 now. She's going off to Glasgow Uni after the summer, all being well with the COVID stuff. So, time marches on. And hobbies wise, well, obviously, as I said, I'm secretary at the Rye Burns Club, and that takes up a bit of time. So I enjoy that. And out with that, I'm a St Mirren supporter for my sins. So I've had a season ticket for St Mirren since I was 17 and all. So I've been going regular to games since then. So this year's been pretty hard. Obviously, I've really missed that. And being a St Mirren supporter, there's a lot of ups and downs, more downs than ups, to be honest with you. So for me, going to the games was always more about the social side of it. So it's the same kind of group of pals I still go with that we've started going over at school together. So it's great to stay in touch. We go up to the pub and have a few pints and go to the game. So that's one of the things I've really, really missed during lockdown, is not being able to do that. But hopefully, come after the summer, we'll get the football back and we can start getting out again on a Saturday.
So one of the best seasons for years, and you've not been able to go and watch them.
Aye, I know. As I say, that has been hard. I mean, with my season ticket, you can stream to get the home games as part of your season ticket. You can still watch them, but it's sit with a beer, and as you say, you can watch the football man screen and chat with your mates and another. But it's not quite the same, But hopefully, I'll not be long when we're back.
And you haven't given the cat a mention.
Oh, he's away out now. It's a wife's cat, really.
So it's not a black and white cat being a Paisley buddy.
No. Actually, it's quite old new cat. He's kind of an old man, but we got him for a farm, so he's pretty vicious. He doesn't like me much.
And what about travelling and stuff? Do you do any travelling?
No, so much in this job. Occasionally, one of my main contractors is based out of Portsmouth, so down there occasionally. It's a nice wee tune. Previous wise, when I worked in Glasgow, did a bit of travelling. Got to go to the Falklands, which was an amazing experience. Went to Germany a couple of times. I'm at a stage where I'm no fuss for travel. I'm quite happy to sit in my office and tap away.
You need to tell us about the Falklands, though. You can't drop that in and not talk a bit about it.
It was just part of the job. When I was in Glasgow, worked in Glasgow, we had to go and do a presentation thing at the Falklands, and what an amazing experience that was. I think it was there for 5 nights, and we were lucky when we were there that it's not known for its good weather, the Falklands, but we were there, the sun split the sky it was azure blue skies for 5 days when we were there. So did loads of walking, saw penguins. I did loads of battlefield tours. It was really an amazing experience. Probably one that I would never have had had I not been for that job. So that was tremendous going there.
And was that a military flight all the way there, or did you have to transfer somewhere?
It was military charter flight, so the travelling was a bit off-putting. So to drive to Bryce Norton, it was a 9-hour flight to Ascension Island, 2-hour stop over there, then another 9 hours to the Falklands, and then same on the way back. So it was a day and a half travelling either side. So it was really tiring, but definitely worth it. It was a great experience.
Very good. Well, let's go on to something a bit more relaxing and talk about your interest in Burns, and I'll let Jim get you started on that.
Now, just before we go there, though, I think you've been extremely modest. I get the Chief of Police's job up at Kilbirnie for the Garnet Valley, and the first thing I was told to do was read the emergency plan.
Aye.
I nearly fell off the seat. So
aye.
It's more to your work and you're letting on, but we'll skim over that.
Aye, fire engines are out quite a lot. It's normally because somebody's burnt the toast.
Jesus, I've never seen a plan like that. It was about that thick. It's ridiculous. However, how did you get started with Burns?
Well, I guess from a Burns perspective, I was pretty lucky in that it was always part of my life, right? If I was wee, My dad was a past chairman of the Dorai Burns Club. 3 of my uncles were past chairman. My grandfather was a past chairman. My cousin was chairman last year. So it's always been, always been part of the family, Dorai Burns Club. And as soon as I turned 18, my dad took me along to the Dorai Burns Club Burns Supper. I think I turned 18 in the December of 1991, and the first Burns Supper I was ever at was Dorai Burns Club in January 1992. So as soon as I went, I was hooked straight away. Not so much initially with the readings and stuff, but just with the whole tradition and formality of it. And I suppose I'll tell you a wee bit about the club, the new. Actually, it's probably a good point to do that. So, as I'm sure you'll know, Dorai Burns Club's sort of claim to fame is the fact that we've got an unbroken record of Burns suppers or anniversary dinners, as it's officially known as. It stretches back to 1825, so that's the longest continuous record of a club in the world, and it's quite rightly something we boast about. But for me, one of the things that I like about our club that makes it special is how we elect our 2 main office bearers, and there may be other clubs that do it this way. I don't know, but basically, we obviously get your treasurer and your secretary, but your 2 main office bearers are the chairman and the croupier. The croupier is essentially the vice chairman, and they're elected. So you get a year. Members get a year in each post. And they're elected at the AGM every year, and it's based solely on seniority of membership. So basically, we just go down the list and pick the next guy that joined the club. And the thing about that makes that special is it doesn't matter your background, your history, what you know about Burns, how good you are at public speaking. Nothing's got asking nothing to do with it. Any member of our club can aspire to stand as chair of the club just based on his being a member. So I think that's a pretty special way to do it. It's totally egalitarian. It's really MD gets a chance to do it, and a lot of the guys that go through the chair maybe never have spoken public before, and they might never do so again. But everybody gets that chance to stand up there in front of 160 folk and propose the memory of Burns. And the likes of me, I'm passionate about Burns, but I've never been chair yet. I've just got to wait my turn like everybody else, So I think that's a great way of doing it. Not everybody takes it, not all the members are up for it, and there is stipulations in there that for a member to take the croupier, he's got to have previously delivered a toast at the anniversary dinner, and that's a few years ago we had an incident where the croupier was due to get up, and I should have said that there's 2 main toasts at the anniversary dinner. There's the chairman delivers the memory of Burns, and the croupier delivers the memory of Jean Armour, and both the toasts are awarded the same or afforded the same importance on the night. So essentially we've got 2 top tables at the Burns supper. We've got croupier on one side and the chairman on the other side, and that was one of the things that really I really liked about it. You get a whole sense of occasion and formality with the 2 top tables facing each other, and the croupier and the chairman toast each other, and you get the members sat in between. But anyway, a few years ago, one of the croupiers, he'd never spoken public before, and 10 minutes before he was due to go up to give his toast to his memory of Jean Armour, he was so nervous he'd overpartaken in the Dutch courage and had to be lifted for the room. So one of the other members got up and did a wee toast, and so since then we've introduced a constituted rule that says, to take the croupier or chair, you have to have previously done a toast. But as I said, as soon as I went to the Dorai Burns Club, my fair time there, I really, I enjoyed it right for the start. So I went. The first Dorai Burns Club Burns Supper was 1992, but I didn't actually join the club till 1999 because we've got limited membership in 90, and that's just solely down to the fact that there's no a hall big enough in Dalry to take any more than 90 members plus a guest each. So we've only got allowed 90 members, and we're lucky in that. I mean, ever since I've been involved, we've always had a waiting list to get in. So I think there's about still 20 odd in the waiting list to get in. But I had to wait to 7 years before a vacancy came up to get in. So it was 1999 before I actually joined the club. But as well as going to that burn supper, my dad, he ran a wee burn supper at the turf in Dalry, and it wasn't a club or, you know, it was anything special. They could buy a ticket for it. But he ran that burn supper. Him and my mum ran that every year with Andy Fergus, who was the proprietor in there at the time. And so I went there every year as well, right, if I was 18, and that was a lot different for the Dalry Burns Club burn supper. That was a real formal occasion, which I really enjoy. The turf supper was almost like a bothy night, you know what I mean? Which again, I love the wee nights and all, the brilliant wee nights. But my dad, he was a toaster rather than a reader. And you know, sort of when I was a teenager, you know, early 20s, he was out Friday, Saturday, January, February. He was out doing burn suppers all Ayrshire and beyond. He's toast. I've got copies. He's toast the lassies up the road. I've tried doing that up the stairs. I've tried delivering them, but I've not got my dad's sense of timing. But anyway, so he was pretty well known in the circuit. So he managed to get for that wee burn supper in the turf. And I say it was about 40 folk at it, and it was just folk that drank through in the bar, and maybe some old wifeys and other couples that, you know, went in there for a bar lunch and saw a poster for it and bought a ticket. But I mean, he managed to get some speakers there, you know. I mean, he'd Phil Todd and Sanny Drain and Tam Strachan, Tam Wilson, Jim Thompson, Fickle Burney, you know. It was some real high-end speakers I got in that wee burn supper in the turf. So I mean, I was lucky that I got to see these type of guys speaking when, you know, I was only sort of late teens, early 20s, and the stuff they were doing was just incredible. I mean, I should have said earlier, one of the other things about Dalry Burns Club is, aside for the two main toasts, the chairman's pretty much got carte blanche to do what he wants with the programme each year. So we've certainly had some different burn suppers. I mean, one year one of the chairmen started up a kazoo orchestra, and we did a medley of burns and the kazoos on the stage. That was a bit odd. Right, as I say, the chairman goes through, and they can. And another thing is, all their toasts and readings and songs are done by club members. So provided a chairman can find a member to do what he wants, he can get whatever he wants. The only thing with that is, as I said, a lot of our members, and it's again, I'm not criticising it, it's they're not as into burns as maybe what some folk are. So a lot of the chairmen, when they go through, want Tam O'Shanter and Holy Willie because they like them and that's what they know. And it's fair enough, you know, they're well-read poems for a reason. They are very good. But so I was hearing a lot, when I was going to the Dalry Burns Club, I was hearing a lot of Holy Willies and Tam O'Shanters. And again, it's probably a discredit to the two, John Horgett and Willie Wallace, two great members of the club who were doing these readings year on year because they've got such a big repertoire between them. But the chairman wants Tam O'Shanter and Holy Willie, so that's what you're doing. So I was going to the turf burn supper, you know, and you'd Tam Strachan and Tam Wilson did Death and Dr. Hornbook as a duet one night, and you know, I remember Phil Todd doing Lament for James Ellerton Cairn, and Jim Thompson, you know, he's doing, you know, Epistle to Davy and Man Was Made to Mourn and Ronalds of the Bennels, and you know, this is the real stuff, you know, this is what I want to hear. And so I was really lucky to get to hear these guys, and that was definitely an inspiration for me learning poems. And the first time I ever performed at a burn supper was in the turf. I think it was around about 19. I think it was the year I joined the Burns Club. I think my father was also trying to encourage me to start learning stuff so I could perform at the Burns Supper. But I really liked, at the time, I still do, I really like Willie Brewed a Peck of Malt as a song. And my father had said, well, how do you fancy learning a wee verse of that? And you can try singing it along with me and somebody else at the Turf Supper next year. I said, all right, well, fair enough, I'll give it a go. So I learned the third verse, you know, for first. So rise to gang a war, cuckold, coward lunacy, will last beside his chair shall fall. He is the king among us three. So I sang that along with my father and Tam Strachan at the Turf Burns Supper. And also very nervous, but I enjoyed it. And again, excuse me.
So was that your first performance?
That was the first time I'd ever performed. I think I was about 25, 26 maybe at the time. And then my father had said to us again the next year, after that, he says, why don't you try and learn a poem and do it at the Turf Supper next year? And if you get on all right, we'll maybe get you on up on the stage at the Dorai Burns Club. So he was obviously testing me out at the Turf to make sure I didn't make a...
So what was the first poem?
Well, that's what I said to him. I says, well, what poem do you think I should learn? I say, because obviously I'm used to hearing Tam O'Shanter at the Burns Club. I say, do you think I should learn Tam O'Shanter? I says, it's up to you, learn that if you want. You'll probably get asked to do that more than anything else. But he says, for me, the best thing I would suggest is pick a poem you really like and do that, because obviously you're the one that's reading it, and you know, if you like it, you're more likely to stick at it. So being young and daft, I chose the Holy Fair, 26 verses or whatever it is. Because it was my favourite poem at the time. I really liked it. Anyway, I managed to learn it actually, and I think I missed one verse when I did it at the Turf Burns Supper the following year. But it went doing all right. So I get it again the following year at the Burns Club one. My dad says, right, that's fine. We'll get you up at the Burns Club, and needless to say, the chairman wanted Tam O'Shanter, so I learnt Tam O'Shanter for the Burns Club one. So that was kind of how I got started with going to Burns Suppers and doing readings, and it's just kind of developed from there. I think a couple of years after that, I get elected onto the committee. My father, he was treasurer at the time, and my uncle was the secretary, so I got elected onto the committee, and then I started going to Ayrshire meetings with Robert Barr and Hugh Monaghan and Hugh McTaggart, and then Robert stood down for being secretary. Robert Barr stood down for being secretary of the club in 2014. So I've been secretary of the club ever since. But it's been great. As I say, ever since, you know, once you get a name for being a reader, certainly locally in Dorai. I mean, I do the Masonic. I'm not on the craft, but I do the Masonic one every year. That's a great wee night. It's like literally 50 yards out of the road, so I've had some proper late nights in there and good players.
Quite easy to go home from that one then.
Aye. I mean, I remember one night being sat in there with, what's the fella's name for Kilwinning? He's Kilwinning Burns Club anyway. I'm there till about 4 in the morning, and I come in down the road, and I was at a Burns Supper with him about 2 weeks later, and I says, you get home all right to go in? He says, aye. I was walking down to the end street in Dorai, and a post van went by, and there was a guy I ken, so he gave me a lift home, so he managed to scrounge a lift home for the post.
Brilliant.
Yeah.
But you kind of skimmed over the bothy nights with Dorai, because having been, you know, a great night, and you need to let folk know how good they are.
Aye, well, that kind of started as I'm trying. It was a while ago now, but we had Dorai had I think we've got a kind of gala day now, but it used to be there was a civic week in Dorai every year for June or July. I can't remember exactly when it was, and they were looking for clubs and local organisations to have events through the week, and my mum ran the Dorai Civic Week, and obviously me and my dad were on the committee, and we said, well, why don't we, the Burns Club, try and do something? What's the easiest thing to do? Well, I don't know, why don't we just have a wee sort of bothy night or something? So that's how it kind of started, and then for a while we had one in the summer and one at St Andrews. But great wee bit. The Tough's a cracking venue. I love it, and my mum runs a local business club in Dorai, so they have a wee burn supper every year, and obviously I get back in there and get to perform the Turf again. I always feel really comfortable performing in there because it's a great wee venue, and I've been reading poems in there for all my life, really. So they're great nights, the Bothy nights. We're lucky we've had more formal ones where we've invited clubs, like Dundonald and that down, and they tend to be in the formal though, so we get the Largs boys usually come here, Jimmy Law's usually there. Obviously we get the Garnet Valley clubs coming. So they've been good. Hopefully again we'll get back to doing them once the restrictions are away. We actually had an online one a couple of weeks ago, which went pretty well. All the recordings are on the club website and the Facebook page. So it's good.
And how did you enjoy your year or 2 years as president of the Ayrshire Association?
It was really enjoyable. On hindsight, it probably wasn't the right time for me to do it because I was working in Glasgow in a really busy job. I was commuting up there every day, so I wasn't getting in the house till after 6:30 most nights, and to then be going out to events at Mauchline or Alloway or something, it was a real stretch for me to do it. So I probably didn't do as much as I would have liked to do, just because at the time I just didn't have the time to do it. My daughter was young at that time as well, so I don't regret doing it. I mean, it was great, but I probably, on hindsight, it'd have been better me delaying it a bit. I would have had a bit more time to give it the care it needed, and I would probably have got more out of it as well for myself having done it. But no, it was great. The only thing I will say was with Ayrshire, and as I say, it probably turned into a good thing. But when I took the chair, it was actually New Cumnock. You were hosting it that night down at the hotel, and when I took the chair over for Robbie, and unfortunately for me, that was the year Margaret Skillen decided to retire as convener of the schools competition. So I remember getting handed the chair, and this is great, here, President of Ayrshire, and Margaret come up with a big box full of signs and all medals and stuff. There you go, that's the schools competition, crack on. I was like, what? So the 2 years I was president, I should say, I ran the schools competition, but they went well. It's probably a good thing. It probably got me a lot more involved in the schools competition than otherwise would have been. Probably just turned up and judged and presented prizes or whatever. And it certainly was an eye opener, the amount of work that goes into running these things. Me and the wife are up to God knows when, collating spreadsheets of entrants and sending emails, and it was an awful lot of work. So I mean, a lot of respect to Margaret that did it for years, and Beth now that does it. I mean, they do a cracking job, and yourself organise this kind of stuff. You tend to get criticised for the things you do wrong, and I think than praised for the things you do right. So I've got a lot of respect for the folk that do that all the time. But the Ayrshire two good years, and through the Ayrshire Association, and that's the thing. When I started going to Ayrshire meetings, my dad was never into going to Ayrshire or getting involved with the Ayrshire Association or Federation, or even though he was well known in the Burn circuit. When I bit Ayrshire, he just saw the big chain and thought that's not what Burns is about. But I spoke when I started going and getting telling about going on the chair. I said you really enjoy it. The guys and women that go there are really knowledgeable about Burns. They're really passionate about it. He probably made a lot of good friends through the association, but he wasn't really fit to be going at that point. But Aye, just the way it was.
Yeah.
How did you take to the competitive part of the, the reciting, obviously the break competition which you won?
Aye, well, as my mum and my auntie were school teachers at Dorey Primary where I went, and they ran the Burns competition on behalf of the club every year. So right for primary 1 to primary 7, I was I'm not saying forced into doing it, but I was encouraged to so I was singing and reciting in school competitions right through primary school. So and I remember when I think Angus was the chair of the association at the time when the association announced they were running the Laprake competition, and I had been looking at Laprake, thinking about learning it, and I probably knew about half a dozen verses. And Angus said, I said, "Oh, amazing, about a third of the way through it, I may as well just learn it and go for it." So that was kind of how I got into doing the Laprake competition. But that was great, the Laprake, and kudos to you guys for running it and making it happen, because it was not just the competition and winning it, the whole 10 years experience. I mean, I think that the whole 10 years, I think I maybe missed 2 years of there just because I was a competitor the first 2 years. I judged the third year. I judged another year. I was there 2 years as president of association, and I went a couple of times just to watch on Saturday. And it was great to hear these guys reading, the cream of the crop, and I don't include myself in that, but to hear your Billy Horns and Cammy Goodalls, it was a privilege to be part of it. Absolutely. I entered the Edinburgh District in 2019, and I won that with the Episcopal Reverend John McMath. So they were supposed to be doing the 10-year Champion of Champions last year, but obviously with the restrictions that didn't happen. So I've still got the Quake sitting through there. Hopefully they'll get something done with that this year. Laprake was special, so I really enjoyed that.
Good. You mentioned when we chatted before we started recording about your interest in particular poems and particular characters. Can you tell us anything about that?
I mean, I don't read a lot of Burns biographies. I've read 3 or 4 just to research immortal memories or whatever. But I much prefer reading the poems and songs than reading about Burns' life. That's how when it comes to the Ayrshire quiz, I tend to do all right with the questions about his works, but when it comes to tours and stuff, I'm not really clued up in that. I suppose it's something I need to start reading up if I ever want to get anywhere at the quiz. But so I don't really, I wouldn't say any sort of favourite person for Burns' story in terms of poems. Again, it's such a big, catalogue of work. It's difficult to pick a favourite poem. I remember having this conversation with Fair and on, not long before he passed, actually. We were talking about our favourite poems, and we both agreed we couldn't pick a favourite poem because there was so many good ones to choose from. So we both had a few verses we really liked for certain poems, and I suppose that's that with any art form, whether it's poetry or music or whatever. If you make a connection with the lyrics or the tune for that matter, if it's a song, then that's one of the reasons you like it. And I had a real connect moment where I was like actually learning Man Was Made to Mourn at the time. And I was working in Germany. I was on a working trip to Germany, and I went to visit the site of Bergen-Belsen concentration camp, and up near Hona in northern Germany. And a really, sobering experience, is the only way I can describe it. And there's not an awful lot left of the buildings in the original site, but it's a big, massive sort of memorial museum. Huge big building there. You sort of walk through it, and there's loads of pictures, and artifacts and, recordings of first-hand testimonials. It's proper harrowing stuff, But there was one picture in particular, and as soon as I saw it, I immediately thought of this verse for Man Was Made to Mourn. And it was a picture of about 300 or 400 Russian prisoners of war. And the Nazis had captured them in the Eastern Front during Operation Barbarossa, and they'd marched them all the way across Northern Europe to this site in Northern Germany, and they basically put them in a field, put a fence around them and just left them. And, they were eating worms and grass and digging holes in the ground to get shelter and to survive, and they all died. But there was the picture, it was like 300 or 400 of them just staring at the camera with this blank, resigned expression in their face. And as soon as I saw it, I thought Man Was Made to Mourn, and the verse was, "Oh, what crowds in foreign lands, all abject and forlorn, through weary life this lesson learn, that man was made to mourn." So I guess it's moments like that, that make you connect with a particular bit of verse, a poem, and that's why Man Was Made to Mourn is one of my favourites. I don't do it much because you can yourself, it's no cheery at all. Actually, I did it at our Bothy night 2 weeks ago, just because I hadn't done it for a while and I wanted to try it. We were actually talking about Jim Thompson for Kilburnie and how he used to do it a lot, and that's why I decided to do it. But it's not the cheeriest of poems, that's for sure. You wouldn't want to be doing that on a bleak night in January. But no, that Man Was Made to Mourn was definitely one of my favourites. It's like anything else, you read stuff and your favourites change over time. As I say, but back when I first started learning Holy Fair, I loved that poem, and I saw Jimmy Law doing it, and I can't remember. Jimmy Law used to come to the Tough Burn suppers. I can't remember if he ever did the Holy Fair in it. Certainly seen him doing it a few times with suitcases and that, and it's something to behold. But Holy Fair's up there with my favourites. I did that at our Burn supper 2 years ago. The first time I'd read it for about 5 or 6 years. But it went all right. I was enjoyed doing it.
You fancy giving us a few verses of that?
Aye, okay. I'm not doing a lot. I was actually, that year I first did it at the Tough Burn supper. As I say, I was 26 or 27, and I say it wasn't a big burn supper. It was like guys for the drank in the bar, and there's me ploughing away through 26 verses of the Holy Fair to these guys that knew nothing about burns. So, anyway, okay. I'll do my favourite verse for it. Lees me on drink. It gies us mair than neither school or college. It kindles wit, it walkins leer, it pangs us full of knowledge. Be it whisky gill or penny wheep, or only stronger potion, it never fails on drinking deep to kittle up your notion by night or day. So that's my favourite verse for that. I mean, other stuff I love, and an absolute highlight for me in my doing burn stuff is doing the Jolly Beggars cantata, and it was John Hodgett for O'Reilly, or we made him an honorary member last year. He basically got us all together and G'd us up to do it and organise the practices and get everything done. But what an absolute blast that was. We did it twice at the Burns Club. We did a performance in the local Masonic Hall. We did it at the Holy Fair. I think you were there that year.
Yeah, I thoroughly enjoyed it. I watched it in the Kirk and Mauchline.
Aye, we did it at Alloway at the Birthplace Museum about 3 years ago, and it's great fun, absolutely brilliant. I
thought the best scene I saw when you did it at the Kirk and Mauchline was all you guys getting changed outside Pussy Nancy's instead of being inside delivering it.
Aye, I know. Aye. You know yourself with this stuff. It was best laid plans and all that, but we ran out of time. There was an issue with the folk that were on a floor ran over or something. I can't remember exactly what happened, but I remember I think we had about 5 minutes to spare before we're due, and I ran into Pussy Nancy's with my frock on for a quick pint, just for a listener, you know what I mean? I was getting these strange looks. But no, that was great fun doing the Jolly Beggars, and that was actually the introduction. That was one of my favourites bits when Lee's Bistrew yeared it. That's a great bit. What else? The favourites, La Prake obviously is up there with one of my favourites. Drevin John McMath, that was one of the reasons I learned that for that competition last year. I kind of went through a spell. I learned a lot of poems when I was younger, you know, when I was like 20s, early 30s. And I went through a spell where I didn't learn an awful lot of new stuff, but I decided about 3 or 4 years ago to try and learn some new stuff just to see how easier it was, or how it seems to be all right. I've got a very.
I think you've been more than all right any time I've heard you.
I mean, I meant all right in terms of being able to learn it. I was, you know, because I was, I got a very. I know I've got the same process every time I try to learn a new poem. I say, if I'm at the gym, I'm pounding away. I just go. That's what I do. I just go poems in my head to keep them fresh. You know?
Alister, I mean, if I remember correctly, the year of the homecoming, Ayrshire Association had a competition for somebody to create a poem, and you entered that. Go on, tell us a wee bit about that.
Aye, sure. So I remember it being announced that there was a quite an open competition for anybody to enter, and it's one of the things where I was working in Glasgow at the time, and I was commuting up and down to Glasgow every day in the train. And at the time, the trains, it was just before they had an upgrade with the trains, so there wasn't an awful lot of trains. It was all the old scabby carriages when I first started going. No long after I started, they brought in a lot of new carriages and changed the timetable, so it wasn't quite as bad. But when I first started up to Glasgow, you couldn't get a seat, and you know, trains were crowded, and it was a nightmare. And I remember being on a train one day, and just, you know, it was this lassie talking on her phone really loudly, and it was really, you know, that way. I was going to my work and I was tired, and I just wanted to get in. It was really grating on me, and I could hear the train going over, you know, the rhythm of the train, and it just started coming to me, this rhythm of this poem. And then the Ayrshire Association announced we're having a competition. I thought I'll try and flesh it out a wee bit. So this is what I come up with. It's called Train, and I'm going to read it because it's a wee while since I've done it. Gone to my job, train's really mobbed, seats are all gone, just off the stone. Always the same, wish I was home. Warm in my bed, book to be read, out like a light, that'll be right. Got to work, can't shirk, who's to keep? That's no cheap. Mortgage at stake, payments to make. Paisley soon, hunters queuing, rush to embark, desperate to park, bums on a seat, get off the feet. Same every day, the seats all away. Guy with BO stones in my toe, case hits my shin, bothersome din, iPod too loud, niggles the crowd. Grating ringtone, bird with a phone, nasal drone, cuts to the bone. Hillington's past, Glasgow at last, not that far now. Stare at my shoe, try to kill time, practice a rhyme. Hornbook and death, tak care of skaith. Tannoy butts in, now announcing. Ladies and gentlemen, we are now arriving at Glasgow Central where this train terminates. Thank you. So I was just basically wrote that.
Well done. Very good.
Quite enjoyed it, and it was over a few train journeys I came up with an idea for it.
Yeah. Anything else you want to talk to Alister about, Jim, before we kind of wind up?
Not really. I think we've covered everything, and he's been great because we've just been sitting here listening.
I'm talking too much. Just before we finish, there's something I want to show you. You don't have to put this in if you don't want. My mum was looking through some old papers and stuff, and she keep every so often she comes out with stuff like this. I've got a programme. I signed a programme for our burn supper for 1960. She came out and So I was in a house one night, so I think, this any interest to you? It's a programme for your 1960 Burn Supper. My grandfather was the chairman, signed by every single person that was there that night with a full programme, pristine condition. I said, is it worth it? Do you think I'm interested in it? So I immediately put it in a cellophane bag. And this is something similar. It's actually from 1959, and it's a Burns Federation bicentennial celebration dinner at Kilmarnock Grand Hall. It's an original programme. So
wow.
next time we have a proper Ayrshire meeting, I'll bring it along. So it's a proper wee booklet, you know, there's a wee poem in it, and then we've got the menu and the programme. But I was reading it's from 24th of January 1959, so it's obviously the bicentenary. And I've got a medal that was my grandfather's, which is for the same. I'm assuming it must have been part of the evening. They got a wee medal as well. My grandfather, he would have been croupier at Dorai Burns Club at the time in 1959, so I'm assuming he must have went along, you know, bought a ticket and went. So, but if you look inside it, when you read the toast list, it really, you know, it really strikes out what some sort of occasion this would have been. So, the mortal memory of Robert Burns was delivered by the Right Honourable Earl of Selkirk, OBE AFC. So I'm assuming he must have been a member of Parliament or something at the time. And then toast the lassies, Dr. T.J. Honeyman, JP LLD. I don't know what half these letters mean, you know what I mean? You know, reply, Sir George Laidlaw, OBE MABSC FEIS. But it's a cracking bit of history. And then you go out the back, and it's what this is always. This must have been the committee of the Federation at the time. Neil Campbell was the president. James Hardy, immediate past president. And it's got the secretary and the treasurer as well. So I'll bring it along the next time we have a meeting and let people have a proper look at it. I just thought I'd put it, just only because my mum put it out her cupboard about 2 weeks ago and asked if I'd be interested in having a look at it. So I just thought I'd bring it along tonight and show you just for a wee bit of historical interest.
Whatever else happens, see that cupboard? That stuff has to stay.
I know. I need to get my dad's books and everything. He had a massive big bookshelf full of his good fillings and everything in them. I need to go up and have a proper look through myself one night and see everything that's there. Because my mum just takes notions every so often, going through this stuff and see what she can pull out. There's probably stuff in there that's, you know, should be in at least our club archive, if nothing else. But I mean, we'll certainly hold on to that. I mean, I don't know whether the Federation will have a copy of that or no, but I'd certainly be happy to share.
Well, I'm quite sure somebody from the Federation will have been watching this, and they'll be able to tell you whether they've got a copy. And if not, I think you'll probably be getting a phone call.
I will. That's the thing, you know, yourself with clubs. We've got a archive of stuff at Dorai Burns Club, and we store it all in the Dorai library. But you know, you just collect stuff up over the years. You know, my cellar's full of 2 big boxes of stuff. Folk just give you lecterns and, you know, books and all sorts of stuff. You know, and it was just all lying about. So I went and bought 2 big plastic storage boxes to keep my cellar, because it's just stuff piles up. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So it's just an example of the history of the story of Burns, and you made a great contribution to that history by allowing us to record this podcast. So thanks very much, Alister, for telling us about your life with Robert Burns. Thank you very much.
My pleasure, and thanks very much for having me. Hopefully we'll get a meeting face to face before long.